for to fight to free Palestine. And we know that, like Aaron, all of us know the torment of what we've been seeing for months and months and months, that we've now gone from seeing videos and images of babies and children mangled under bombs and under collapsed buildings, to now babies and children who have starved to death and who are starving to death, not just because of Israel, but because of the United States government, who's the only reason that's able to happen. And Aaron Bushnell, wearing the uniform of the Air Force in particular, who is running the flights that is supplying the weapons, but also enforcing the blockade so things like baby formula and medicine cannot reach Gaza. And I can tell you that Aaron Bushnell is just the tip of the iceberg of those who are in the military today, who are also disgusted and repulsed by what the Pentagon is doing and what those wearing their uniform are doing, and repulsed by the uniform that they have to put on every day. And I hope that the vigils that are happening around the country, like this one, are showing those in the military that they have a place here in the streets, and they should not sink into despair and loneliness. They should join us here. And then I want to say to anyone who is in the military, if you are moved by what Aaron Bushnell did, if you are moved by what you're seeing in Gaza, you can walk away today from the U.S. military. You can quit today. There is no better way to honor the sacrifice of Aaron Bushnell than to take off your uniform and put it in the trash and join the ranks of those of us in the streets. It's a heroic tradition that has spanned the entire history of this country and all of its criminal wars, and it's one that can make a difference in deepening the crisis for Washington over its genocide in Gaza. Today we're going to hear from several other veterans, military families, and others who helped to organize this. And it's amazing to see so many people here, and I really appreciate all of you coming out. First we're going to hear from Mitch, who's an Afghanistan war veteran. Mitch.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mike. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
My name is Mitch Green. Can you hear me now? My name is Mitch Green. I'm an Army veteran, and I served from 2001 to 2007 with the deployment to Afghanistan with Operation Enduring Freedom. I'm also a candidate for Portland City Council for the district in which we're standing right now. I'm here today to share my reaction to Aaron Bushnell's Brave Act, because I think it's important to use the special voice that we vets have when it comes to matters of war and resistance. It's not so easy to dismiss a veteran as just another angry protester, because it breaks through the frames that society places around vets and what's expected for our narrative, right? And there's a long tradition of veterans taking a stand and helping to end this kind of thing. So it was very gut-wrenching to watch that video as a veteran, and as a veteran whose anti-war politics was forged through the very experience of that overseas deployment. And in that moment, I immediately regained my clarity and focus. The understanding that whatever horrors I witnessed in Afghanistan as a young soldier not only persist to this day, they never ended. It's like 20 years ago almost for me. But they just keep getting worse, and they are amplified, and the screws are getting turned to levels of horror that are just unimaginable, right? It's hard to conceive those horrors. We've all seen the images of the maimed and starving children, a whole population living in a state of constant terror, but it's also easy to say, I can't bear to look at this anymore. I need to turn away and find a way to cope with the feeling that it's all too much. And then someone like Aaron Bushnell does something so extreme and so brave that it pulls you back out of that complacency, and it reminds you that Palestinians don't have that privilege. They can't afford it. And for them, every single second lingers on in suffering through that genocide. I believe he did what he did to shake people like me loose. Those of us who've gotten maybe a little too quiet about it, despite our anti-war politics, and complacent, who found ways to compartmentalize that horror of this brutal siege while tacitly accepting that our own government's participation in it. There are heroes every single day doing acts of bravery and resistance for Gaza, but clearly it hasn't been enough because it's still going on. The polite society remains quiet, and our own government is complicit, and our own local government, Portland City Council, and the county is complicit by remaining silent and refusing to pass resolutions of ceasefire. But in Bushnell's final moments, you don't hear silence, you hear urgency, as he cried out for a free Palestine. And I'll never forget that. That was Aaron Bushnell using his veteran's voice, in his way, as Mike says, in the loudest way possible. So that's what I'm going to do here today, as a veteran, as someone running for office, to stand here, take this risk, and say we must have a ceasefire now. We must call for that now, at all levels of government. Portland City Council, county, do it now. Palestinians can no longer wait. Thank you.
Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Next, I'd like to welcome up Henry, who's an Iraq War veteran, who's also going to share a statement from another service member who paid another ultimate sacrifice to try to stop the killing.
Yeah.
First, I'm going to share a statement written by Daniel Hale. This is a statement from Daniel Hale. If you don't know who Daniel Hale is, he whistle blew on the Obama drone assassination program and is now in federal prison. But even despite being there, he has something to say at this really important moment. Greetings, friends and comrades. I wish so much that I could be there with you right now as we mourn and honor the life of Aaron Bushnell. In my absence, I ask that my words be shared with you. I express the utmost solidarity and humble respect for our fallen comrade Aaron. Both Aaron and I share a commonality that is more widespread throughout the American military than our ruling class would have you believe. The weight of guilt for the many crimes against humanity perpetrated by our own government hangs heavy over every veteran. Aaron succumbed to the most invasive wound in the U.S. military, a moral wound, a moral injury. I urge each of you to honor his memory by going and looking at his final moments uncensored. Aaron wanted everyone to witness the horror of human beings being consumed by flames. Lest we continue to ignore the reality of what our bombs are doing to the bodies of Gazans' children by the tens of thousands. God promised Noah the quote-unquote fire next time. Aaron's stunning bravery is a prophecy fulfilled. Until every prison a library, until every sword a plowshare, until every person is made free from Palestine to Pelican Bay, rest in power, the martyrs of Gaza, and rest in power, Aaron Bushnell.
Rest in power, Aaron!
Daniel made such a huge sacrifice for himself, much like Aaron, to tell the world
Check.
okay. To tell the world what the United States does in countries around the world through its drone program. Both of them knew the cost of their choices, and they made them anyway. Powerless. That's the one word that's reverberated for me. That's how I feel about Aaron. Because for all the solidarity we might offer Aaron in his choice, I don't think any of us would have advised him to do this. But he still did. He still made that choice. But we exist in a world where tomorrow is gone, or excuse me, yesterday is gone and tomorrow isn't guaranteed. There's no going back. No amount of elaborate or wishful thinking would bring Aaron back to us. And this is how Palestinians feel every single day. Their families are murdered, their homes are razed, their land is polluted, and their culture is obliterated. There's no going back to October 6th. Aaron and Daniel both knew this and wanted to pass along this idea of powerlessness so that anyone who saw Aaron's death, anyone who let themselves take the horrifying journey through his final moments, might find their own feeling of powerlessness and maybe a new perspective, one where the powerlessness of Palestinians is understood and the criminal, oppressive occupation and siege on them hopefully forward to peace someday, but we know there is no going back. Thank you. Thank you, Henry. Free Daniel Hale!
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 Next, we're going to hear from Chris, who spent 6 years as infantryman in the Oregon National Guard. Welcome, Chris. New Jersey National Guard.
Thank you for coming. Aaron Bushnell's sacrifice. Better? There we go. Aaron Bushnell's sacrifice has left me flabbergasted. Watching the video of his immolation was simultaneously horrifying and inspiring. To see someone who had such a deep and abiding commitment to justice, to moral clarity, and to the oppressed people of Palestine has brought into stark contrast the reality of our situation. And while I'd like to talk about Aaron, how I was his same age and rank when I got out of the Army, and my personal feelings about the military, I'm going to refrain. I think my feelings about the military are already clear as I'm speaking at a vigil hosted by veterans against war. Instead, I'd like to focus on what Aaron himself found most important about the genocide being perpetrated in Palestine. For 144 days now, the Palestinian people have been facing an active, premeditated, merciless genocide. As we know, the story of Palestinian oppression by Israelis doesn't begin last October. It begins 76 years ago with the massacre and forced removal of families from more than 500 towns in Palestine, and the subsequent apartheid state created to ensure Palestinians have neither political nor economic power. While I'm sure you've already heard of the inhumane conditions Palestinians have been subjected to for years, I think it's important to highlight the rhymes of history that are presenting themselves today. Those that are helping reinforce and perpetuate these very conditions. Those that control the information we receive. Corporate media outlets are trying to convince us the genocide we're witnessing with our own eyes isn't a genocide. With every war the U.S. wages or finances, it becomes more clear the media plays a specific role in manufacturing consent for wars by sowing doubt about people's legitimate opposition and questions regarding the war. Remember how the media uncritically reported on the lies about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq? Yep. Over 1 million Iraqis are now dead because of it. Those same media outlets were the ones to uncritically report lies written by Israeli intelligence, no less, about beheaded babies and military command posts underneath hospitals as blatant attempts at justifying what is so clear to us all: the wholesale slaughter and displacement of the Palestinian people. These media outlets are clearly mouthpieces for the Pentagon and for the ruling class. The class of people not only oppressing the starving, huddled masses across the globe, but you and me, right here, right now. They have already normalized for-profit healthcare and prisons, homelessness, and the climate disaster. They are funding the rise of fascism in the United States and across the globe. How do they do this? By using the tools of imperialism and colonialism domestically. That's why the plight of the Palestinian people is our plight. Not just because genocide is wrong wherever it happens, but because the tactics of the oppressors are being used here too. We can see that our government is not concerned with our well-being, but instead is preparing itself to crack down harder on dissent than ever before. Ending homelessness in the United States would cost approximately $20 billion. And we spent almost that same amount on Israel in November alone. I don't need to give you a rundown on every metric of inequality. Suffice it to say that our government could end the problems facing each and every one of us with the stroke of a pen, but they choose not to. Instead of solving issues that are at the core of inequality in our countries, Republicans and Democrats, let me say it for you in the back, and Democrats have decided to fund measures to ensure that inequality persists. Since the uprisings of 2020, police have more funding than ever. Nearly 100 cop cities are being built around the country. The author of the 1994 crime bill is currently our president. And the police are killing a record number of people. In Aaron's last social media post, he stated, quote, "Many of us like to ask ourselves, what would I do if I was alive during slavery, or the Jim Crow South, or apartheid? What would I do if my country was committing genocide? The answer is, you're doing it right now, including you driving by." It can feel overwhelming to take in all the injustices of the moment. The good news is that they're all connected. So if your little corner of work involves pulling at one of the threads, you are helping unravel the whole damn cloth. Voting is not enough. Although, great, thanks for running for city council. Posting is not enough. Let Aaron's sacrifice spur you to further action. Let it spur you to further education. If you're not already familiar with how capitalism is the backbone to all these problems, you have some reading to do. If you want help with that education, you can find me personally later, and I'd happily point you in the direction of resources currently at your disposal. Each of us has to do our own small part in taking down this behemoth of injustice. The time has come to get organized. This coming Saturday, March 2nd, a coalition of parties, including the Party for Socialism and Liberation, Intifada PDX, Oregon to Palestine Coalition, and the Portland DSA, are meeting right over there at 1 p.m. this Saturday, as part of a global effort to show our unity for the Palestinian people. Millions of people across the globe are going to be standing up to say enough. Ceasefire now is the bare minimum. End the genocide.